And I said, and I'm sure all of you have some kind of fear. I mean, this is the way things are going, but you have to face them. I've been thinking about the zeitgeist, and I thought about it, and I realized that my ability to have lived the spirit of the times, from the Chicana movement and to the civil rights movement and all the other exciting political events that I lived through in the 60s and 70s were very influential to me. And I realized that from the moment I set foot in Chicago after our immigration from Coahuila, that I was living in the moment, because I wanted to learn everything about this new land that we were going to live in. So in a kind of undisciplined way, I was a kind of anthropologist, more than a sociologist at the time, because I wanted to learn about the culture. And that also brings to mind the question of academic freedom for our times. All of the essays in that book were written under the umbrella and auspices of academic freedom, and the belief that my university also believed that.
That's huge. Because
the university also believed that
they stood by you,
and I trusted that they would stand by my usage of what it means to have academic freedom, because I was breaking out of a discipline. And even though people in the disciplines have academic freedom, it's not the same as to say you have academic freedom and you don't have to be in a discipline. You can do cross-cultural critical studies. And those things put together, sort of brought this book about. I decided to have that title, Forced by Circumstance, because when all is said and done, I'm an existentialist, philosophically speaking. That's kind of my foundation, philosophically speaking. I've detoured and gone to other philosophical realms because I love critical theory, and philosophy, in a sense, is critical theory. And it's only been transformed for our times from the 18th century, let's say, and 19th century. So those books came together with that kind of, I'm an existentialist, I was living the zeitgeist, and I had academic freedom. After I finished my book on Rosario Castellanos, which was informed by a discipline, but even that I broke boundaries on the discipline itself, because I had good mentors and I was lucky that way. And I say I was lucky because in retrospect I realized what great mentors I had, because they gave me academic freedom as well. So I was well nurtured, academically speaking. It's in retrospect that you realize how much people gave you.
Right.
And it's in retrospect that you realize that they have given you a lot, more than you recognized in the moment. Most of my essays in my book were actually requested, because they were requested in the following way. They were requested because people were having a conference and they wanted me to be part of it. So I would find out what the conference was about and so on and so forth. I would think about what I was doing, and I would put my intellectual concerns in tune with that conference. I said, maybe I should have indicated, but others were just requested, not just for a conference, but just for a special issue, like a feminist issue or a gender issue, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also fortunate because I didn't have to look around all the time for the journal that would take my work, because my work was offbeat vis-a-vis the disciplines and so on and so forth. So, but certain journals like Cultural Critique were very good because they requested. Also, we were not living in a cynical age, which is what we're living in right now. We're living in a very cynical age. Our leadership in Congress and at the White House and in federal offices are all riddled with cynicism, and they're everyone out for themselves on the one hand, but on the other, because they are in sync with each other ideologically, they can just lie over lie over lie over lie, and it doesn't matter because the goal is authoritarianism and total control of the population, and we are the enemy, or at least I'm one of the enemy according to their definition. You know, in the beginning of this campaign from Trump, I thought that the cult was more the base who live for the end of times, and they are so sure that they will soon have experienced the rapture. They don't care if it's authoritarianism. Maybe they will when they lose their Medicaid. Maybe they will when they lose their hospitals. We don't know yet. The formation of the cult takes place with the Claremont Institute that produced Project 2025, and 48% of it has been completed. So we have 50% to still resist, and that could be a joyful thought because there is something still to resist. And if 50% of the 2025 project is still not done, 52% according to statistics being reported, then at least 52% of that project is not in the books yet. So, and from considering what's been happening, that's good news. Because maybe we can keep 52% of their agenda off the books.
Maybe.
I have two major portions of the book, and they're divided into, shall we say, thematic, substantive sections. So, for example, in the first section of the book, I think a lot of people would be interested that are just want to have critical thought around straight up literature, Chicana literature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and all of those that are straight up Chicana literature are mostly in the first part of the book, the first section of the book, and it is oriented more towards the cultural fight more than a political one.
Mm-hmm.
That culturally you could still have a politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the book, but it's not frontal, because what's frontal is a humanities orientation. So it would be helpful. Readers should be interested in the humanities in general, and Chicanx in particular, because that is the focus that guides my critical thought, even if it's not necessarily discussed. If Chicanas are not discussed on every single essay in the book directly, they are discussed from the critical point of view that I take, and I take a Chicana feminist point of view by just feeling the zeitgeist within myself of the movement that I took part in.
Right. Connecting it.
Connecting.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So, and actually, I felt during all my academic career, I felt that I was part of a movement still, because there was this continuous excitement of the newness of the field. Because Mexican American Studies was totally revitalized with a different name. At least in California and in Michigan, because Texas never took it up, except for the academics themselves who wanted to use it for their work. But they never took it up as a program name. They kept Mexican American Studies, which indicated the conservativity by keeping the old name. In a sense, then, the Chicano movement was an outbreak, a real outbreak, from the former generations that worked under the notion of Mexican America. And they were breaking away because they were, in their own way, a bit burgueses. And the movement wanted a more transformative agenda for people of Mexican descent in the United States.
Look, it must be very exciting for you to have these essays, finally published.
Yes, I am, and I am. I'm very grateful to Andrew for considering my manuscript, and also the fact that they had always kept the faith with woke and DEI.
Right on.
And that's what we want, and that's, if we have to reinvent woke and DEI, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's part of my resistance. I cannot deny who I am. And if I'm considered woke, well, sorry, that's me. That's academic freedom.
Well, this isn't the kind of thing you want to sleep through, right?
No. If the faculty of universities do not have academic freedom, do not trust the teacher anymore. Because if they're not woke, then they're lying to you or editing themselves in ways you don't want to do it. That's why the library is there. I started my job, my work in the library because there were no books. In the 60s, there were no books except old books with respect to Mexican Americans.
Yep.
So as the books started being published and coming in, I read them.
Yep.
And that's how I became a Chicana and a Mexican. I enjoy saying that I became a Mexican in the United States because everybody was so concerned about me being a Mexican. What? What is a Mexican?